The 1938 British one penny is one of the most historically significant coins from the reign of King George VI, as it was issued during a period of economic and political transition in the United Kingdom following the abdication of King Edward VIII in 1936. When George VI ascended the throne and his portrait was introduced on the coinage. For the first time since the reign of George V, the penny was a fundamental part of everyday commerce at the time, used in daily transactions across the UK and its territories, minted in large numbers, but with subtle variations, making it a fascinating coin for collectors and numismatists worldwide. Designed by the renowned sculptor Thomas Humphrey Paget, the obverse of the 1938 penny features a left-facing bust of King George VI with the Latin inscription, Georgius 6 DGBR, Omen Rex FDINDIMP, which translates to George VI by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, defender of the faith, Emperor of India. This inscription highlights Britain's vast empire at the time, which was still intact before the independence. Movements across the colonies gained momentum in the mid-20th century. The portrait of George VI was meticulously crafted by Paget following official sittings with the king himself, which allowed for an accurate and detailed depiction, unlike his predecessor Edward VIII, who had insisted on a right-facing portrait, breaking a long-standing tradition. George VI's left-facing bust followed the alternating direction custom that had been in place since the reign of Charles II. On the reverse, the coin displays the iconic seated Britannia design, which had been a staple on British pennies since 1797, designed by Conrad Heinrich Kuckler. This depiction shows Britannia seated, holding a trident in her left hand and resting her right hand on a shield emblazoned with the Union Jack, symbolizing Britain's naval supremacy and global influence. Britannia had been a symbol of British identity and strength for centuries, appearing on coinage as a representation of power and maritime dominance, which was especially relevant during the interwar years when Britain sought to maintain its influence. Despite the economic struggles of the Great Depression, the reverse also features the denomination 1 penny with the date 1938 positioned below the Britannia figure, ensuring clear identification for everyday users. The 1938 penny was minted at the Royal Mint in London, with no mint marks, as British pennies traditionally did not feature mint marks, unless produced at branch mints such as those in Australia, South Africa, or India. However, there are certain subtle die variations that collectors have identified over the years, including differences in the spacing of the lettering and slight die cracks, which make some examples more desirable among numismatists. During this period, the composition of the penny remained consistent with previous issues, being struck in bronze composed of 95.5% copper, 3% tin, and 1.5% zinc. This high copper content gave the coin its characteristic reddish-brown hue, which could darken over time due to oxidation. The weight of the coin was approximately 9.45 grams, with a diameter of 30.8 millimeters and a plain edge. These specifications had been in place since the transition from large cartwheel pennies in the early 19th century, ensuring uniformity in British coinage for over a century. Mintage figures for the 1938 penny were relatively high, as the Royal Mint produced around 120 million examples for circulation. This ensured widespread availability, making it a common date for collectors. Today, although high-grade specimens, especially in uncirculated or proof condition, can command a premium in the numismatic market, proof examples were struck for collectors and were carefully handled to maintain their pristine surfaces, often showing a deeper red luster due to their superior finish. These proof issues are considerably rarer than regular circulation strikes, making them highly sought after. Historically, the 1938 penny was circulating during a period of significant political and social change in Britain. In March 1938, Germany annexed Austria in the Anschluss, an event that marked the growing tensions in Europe leading up to World War II. Britain was in a state of uncertainty as Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain pursued a policy of appeasement with Adolf Hitler, culminating in the Munich Agreement later that year, in which Chamberlain famously declared peace for our time, although this optimism would prove short-lived. With the outbreak of World War II in 1939, these geopolitical Events had an indirect impact on British coinage as the economy and metal supply chains began to shift in preparation for potential conflict. Errors and varieties of the 1938 penny exist, though they are relatively rare. Some known examples include minor die cracks, which occur when the die used to strike the coin develops fractures over time, leading to raised lines on the final coin. Another notable variety involves slight misalignment of the die, which results in off-center strikes, though these errors are not as dramatic as those found on later decimal coinage. They can still add value to certain examples, depending on their severity. The value of the 1938 penny depends heavily on condition. Worn examples are quite common and typically sell for a few pounds, while well-preserved examples in extremely fine or uncirculated condition can fetch significantly higher prices. Collectors often seek coins with strong details, minimal wear, and original luster, making them more desirable in the market-proof versions. With deep red toning and sharp details can command hundreds of pounds at auctions, especially if certified by reputable grading companies such as PCGS or NGC. The significance of the 1938 penny extends beyond its monetary value, as it represents a key moment in British history with the transition to a new monarch, the looming threat of war, and the gradual changes in global power dynamics. By the time the next major redesign of the penny occurred in the 1950s, Britain had already undergone massive transformations, including the loss of India as a colony in 1947, marking the beginning of decolonization, and the eventual decline of the British Empire. The 1938 penny serves as a tangible artifact of this period, connecting collectors to the past through its design and history. Even today, the George VI pennies remain a favorite among collectors due to their classic design and historical significance, with the 1938 issue standing out as one of the key dates of his reign, whether found in an old jar of coins or meticulously preserved in a collection. The 1938 one penny continues to tell a story of a changing world, a monarch's legacy, and the enduring appeal of numismatics.